What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live. We got a show for you today where we're going to talk about the recent NBA update where it looks like not all 30 teams are going to be resuming their season. We'll talk about what that could potentially mean for the Portland Trail Blazers. I also want some help figuring out some Pulse questions because I want to do a Blazers Pulse episode in the next week or so. If you guys don't know what that is, that's where I ask you questions in the community tab and look at the poll results and look at some of the comments. I haven't done one of those in months, so usually I do one every 2 to 3 months. I haven't done one of those in a while, so I figured I'd get one of those out, and you guys could help me with that by helping me think of some questions. It would be based around the return of the NBA season, and that is what is on tap for today. So, Eric, anything you want to lead off with?
No, just want to get into talking about the playoff situation and the NBA coming back.
All right, yeah, I'll let you lead into that if you want. Windhorst was reporting that not all 30 teams could return. I don't really know any of the details. Maybe I missed something.
So the latest rumor is that they're going to just have the 16 playoff teams, but have it reseeded without conferences. So, like the Bucks would play, Orlando. The Lakers would get the 2 seed and play. I think it was the Nets.
I'll look up the standings right now.
Yeah, and then the Lakers basically would get Toronto in the second round and avoid the Clippers, and the Bucks would have to play in the whatever conference or whatever finals that side is called. And then the Lakers would pretty much have...
The Bucks have a better record than the Lakers.
Yeah, the Bucks have the 1 seed. The Clippers are the 4 seed. So the Lakers would play the Raptors. Yeah, gotcha. So Raptors have a better record than the Clippers.
Gotcha.
So the Lakers would basically have an easy path to the finals, while the Bucks and Clippers would have to meet. Yeah.
So Brooklyn is 30 and 34.
So here's my thing about that. So they're talking about just going straight to the playoffs. So, but I know you and I are both against reseeding the teams, right? In regular circumstances.
Yeah.
So in this particular year, with it all being messed up, I don't have an issue with like an outlier doing that. But if they do it, it would make sense then to play those 5 games or like have a little bit of a regular season, because the Blazers, I believe, would only be a game and a half back of Orlando and have a chance to actually make the playoffs then, even if it was only 5 games versus just going straight to the playoffs and not having a chance.
Well, Windhorst said that they're looking at 16 plus some. They don't know like what number that would be. But they were not, them not having all 30 teams didn't mean that they were only going with 16. What he said was they're looking at the possibility of a round robin, so you could maybe look at the teams around that area playing some sort of round robin. They're looking at a potential play-in. That is what he said. It doesn't sound like they're going to limit it to straight 16.
Windhorst is like the only one who's saying that, and he's hardly ever right. So
who said otherwise? I'm just curious because I haven't been paying a ton.
He is the only person I've seen say anything other than they're talking about just going to 16 and reseeding it. Like everyone else is saying that.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't make a ton of sense.
Nothing's for sure yet.
Yeah, I mean that'd be ridiculous. I'd be kind of.
Well, they got a lot of heat, I think, for. Why are you risking these teams for 5 games? So I think they're now leaning towards going to just the playoffs. It might be kind of an extended version of the playoffs to where they have a few play-in games, maybe. But, I mean, if you just look at the standings, there's a gap between 8 and 9 in both conferences. And we've talked about the reasons why that still doesn't make sense to just cut those teams off from being eligible to having a chance. But I think they're just looking at it like it's pretty much set who the teams are right now. We'll just go to the playoffs and avoid
that'd be absolutely ridiculous from the NBA's end. That would be them completely mismanaging the situation, in my opinion, because I don't understand why they have to wait until the end of July to resume things. It just doesn't make sense. Why couldn't you resume things in mid-July, have some sort of some sort of situation, some sort of play-in or some sort of round robin? Like, do it for teams that are within 5 games of or without that. Say you have 5 games if you come back. It doesn't make any sense why they wouldn't go with something where teams within 5 games would come and play those 5 games. Maybe it's just 20 teams and you exclude the 30 and the 14th through 20th teams play each other over 5 games or something like that. Like, it doesn't make any sense why they wouldn't do something like that and incorporate more teams. And especially if they're going to reseed things, then you're just playing in for like the Orlando Magic spot instead of, Portland trying to chase Memphis. You're playing in for Brooklyn's spot. Like, I don't know. Or if not that, have some sort of plan. If you're going to reseed things 1 through 16, it makes perfect sense to do, like, it makes even more sense to do a plan in that scenario. Like, that would be more entertaining. You could get creative with the way you structure that play-in if you're not worrying about, okay, this conference versus that conference. I don't know. It's just, I'll be very frustrated with the NBA if they just go straight to 16 teams because of the imbalances in the schedule, because of, some of the things that I've stated in the past. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I'm a Blazer fan, but as I've said, you switch their schedule in Memphis, Portland would be in right now. Now, Portland basically squandered their opportunity by playing terrible against teams like the Cavs without Love, against teams like the Warriors. Like, the Blazers definitely have kind of pissed away their chance here, and a big part of that is back to what we've talked about all season as far as some problems with the coaching, some problems with the style of play, that type of stuff, which we haven't talked about in months. Which is kind of weird because we're talking about it every night. But, yeah, I mean, even though Portland kind of pissed away a bit of an opportunity here, they should still get an opportunity because they've played one of the hardest schedules in the league. Memphis has played one of the easiest. Memphis gets rewarded just based on the way they laid out the schedule. It's not something that's fair. In the NBA should be trying to set something up, 1, for entertainment purposes, which having some sort of plan would be entertaining, and 2, from a fairness standpoint. But if they just go straight to 16 teams, you're not satisfying either of those things, in my opinion. So it'd be a huge mistake from the NBA's end, and I'd be very frustrated with that.
I think they're satisfying that for every person that's an NBA fan except for Blazer fans and Pelican fans and maybe Kings fans. I think everyone else just wants it to go to the playoffs.
They're satisfying the extra entertainment by not having a play-in?
I just don't think the play-in game really moves the needle that much either way for most fans.
Yeah, but
I mean, obviously we want the play-in game, but if we were Memphis right now, would you think you should have to play a play-in game?
If
like honestly, without
Memphis'
bias,
situation and had a very easy schedule, and Memphis was in Portland's situation and had one of the hardest schedules in the league, I would honestly, I wouldn't want it from, because I'm a fan of the team that's in 8th, but I'd understand the fairness aspect of, okay, we've had a very easy road up to this point. We're 3.5 games ahead with 16, 17 games left. The other team has had a very hard road up to this point. Our schedule was about to get insanely, insanely tough. I'd understand that, okay, we're 2 pretty even teams in terms of, if the schedules were balanced, these teams would probably be pretty even with, that many games left.
I'd just be like, screw that. We're 3.5 games up. Why should they get a chance to beat us?
Yeah, I mean, but I always tell it how it is, or try not to be biased, and try not to, let my opinion of a team get in the way. Like, I don't have this opinion because I'm a Blazer fan, if that makes sense. I have this opinion because, one, it'd be extra
I don't know if I
entertainment.
believe that.
You come back and lead with a playoff game. NASCAR came back to freaking Darlington on a Sunday and got over 6 million viewers, okay? And if the NBA came back with play-in games, they'd get like 6, 7, 8 million viewers. They'd get insane viewership. People would tune in for that. People would be so excited for that. Like, partly because, okay, it's a play-in game, you know, some people normally wouldn't be excited for an 8 versus 9 playoff game, but it'd be the first games in a long, long time. So you lead off with that. I think from an entertainment standpoint, from a done, do or die type of standpoint, I don't like one and done games in the NBA. So if you're going to have this outlier season and kind of experiment with different stuff, I think it'd be very entertaining to have a win or go home, you know. I mean, you have it in like game 7s, but that's after playing the team 6 times, just 6 times, you know. It'd be interesting to have just a you win and you move on, you lose and you're done, 1 game playoff play-in. I think that'd be very entertaining, and I think passing up on that doesn't make a whole lot of sense in a season like this, in a scenario like this, from a fairness standpoint, from an entertainment standpoint.
So the Blazers, 3.5 games up, have to play a one and done to even make the playoffs. They lose the game, their season's over. You'd be fine with that because it was entertaining?
I mean, I'd be fine with that compared to a 16-team playoffs, yeah.
You'd rather have that scenario than the Blazers making the playoffs and going in?
What do you mean? I mean, the Blazers are going to have to earn their way into the playoffs.
No, I'm saying you're saying you want the entertainment of the play-in game, but I'm saying if the Blazers were the 8th seed right now and they lost that game to a team that was 3.5 games behind and didn't make the playoffs and finished the 14th pick or whatever, you'd rather take that than them going straight to the playoffs and then the Blazers being the 8th seed?
I'd rather have them in the playoffs, but in a situation like this, like, what I would, you know, obviously I'd rather have them in the playoffs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the NBA should do that. You know? Like,
see, I'm more worried about the seeding, like, because the ratings are going to be so good, they're just going to switch, because it seems like they want to switch to having 16 teams seeded, not based by conference anyway. So I have a feeling they're going to use this to be the jumping off point to make that happen, considering it'll probably go well. So I think they're going to go through with it, and then they'll be like, oh, we should just do this all the time. And then that brings about all the problems we've talked about with that. But there's so many people that I have seen like, yes, finally they're going to do it. And then no, it's always going to be like this.
I mean, that would be ridiculous logic, because the main reason why it'd be ridiculous logic for the NBA to use this season to say we should do that in the future, because the main issue with seeding teams 1 through 16 is travel. Obviously, they don't have to travel. They're all in the same spot. So you eliminate that issue. The second issue is, what's the point of like conferences and, you know, scheduling based off conferences if you're going to seed teams 1 through 16 without consideration of those conferences? You know, like, why have a team in the West play you know, a harder schedule by playing more teams in the West compared to a team in the East, but then when it comes to making the playoffs, they're held on even ground. You know what I mean? It kind of eliminates the purpose of conferences and the purpose of scheduling based off conferences. But in this scenario, the schedule is already so messed up and the season is so messed up, that kind of isn't really a problem anymore, since it's going to be messed up either way. So you eliminate the 2 biggest issues. But just because you eliminate those 2 issues this year doesn't mean that you should disregard them in future years and do this, because those issues would be prevalent, and it just doesn't make sense for the NBA to go to 1 through 16 in future years and use this year as the justification for it.
See, if you look at the standings, right? So even though we played more games, we're technically tied with New Orleans, but they have like the tiebreaker with us, right? Mm-hmm. So we'd have to worry about them. But if you just went to 1 through 16, regardless of conference, and then had a somewhat of a regular season, even if it's 5 games, that leaves, 6 games. 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 6 let's see, we're 2 games out of 15th then for Brooklyn. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 teams within 2 games of, or 2.5 games of that final 2 spots.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like a play-in. You could even, they should just like change the schedule around. So like you play one of those teams once, or like all 5 of those teams play each other, and that like they basically decided on the court, but it's like in the disguise as the regular, finishing off the regular season. And all those games would be super important to all the other 4 or 5 teams that are trying to get into the playoffs. But so that would be the only way I think making 5 games left in the regular season would be worth it, because that includes a lot more teams than it would have if you just say Portland has to make up 3.5 games in 5 games to make the Western Conference playoffs. Because now we have 2 teams we could jump, and those 2 teams have to prove it on the court. Brooklyn probably still wouldn't have Kyrie. I don't know, maybe he's healthy by now, but I don't think so. And then they've already ruled out Durant playing at all. The Magic aren't a great team, so we could pass them.
Yeah.
And in fact, you could see both Portland and New Orleans passing those 2 teams. And then not only do you have Portland in the playoffs, but the NBA gets Zion in the playoffs. I think that would be pretty exciting. So you have like Zion versus Giannis in the first round or something, and then the Blazers still make the playoffs. It kind of screws Brooklyn and Orlando, but they're below 500 anyway. They don't deserve to be not screwed. So
yeah.
And if they don't want to be screwed, then they could, they have a 2-game lead. They can win majority of their games in the regular season or whatever they end up doing.
Yeah. What happened to playing a minimum of 70 games? You know what I mean? That has been a huge point throughout all this with their contractual obligations and all that. What happened to the need to play 70 games? All of a sudden,
I don't know.
Today is like, oh, we're just going to come straight back to the playoffs. Like, what? I don't understand it. The thing is, honestly, I don't think we really have any clue what they're going to do, because you've heard all kinds of different reports on this.
Yeah.
You've heard all kinds of different reports, so I assume they're floating a bunch of ideas. You know what I mean? And certain ideas leak, and
I think what happened is originally they were going to be like, okay, let's just fulfill the television contracts. That's all that really matters, and then we'll take it from there. But when that plan kind of got leaked, they got a lot of heat for risking 14 teams that none of them had a chance to make the playoffs if you're only playing 5 games, and you're risking their safety for some money basically to fulfill a contract. But it doesn't really do anything. Like, there's no reason for Golden State or teams like Phoenix and stuff to show up and even play those games. So what's really the point? So I think they got a lot of backlash on that, and were like, oh wait, this looks kind of bad if we only play 5 games. So they maybe tried to figure out if they could play more than that. And then now they're just like, well, screw it. Let's just go to the playoffs and skip it. I hope that's not the case. I still hope they finish the regular season somehow. It's just looking unlikely at this point.
I mean, the only thing that I've really seen today is when Horse saying 16 plus some and whatever. I'm looking for at Woj's Twitter. He's not saying anything about the NBA considering limiting it to 16 teams. I feel like the possibility of 1 through 16 seeding for the entire NBA getting floated might have given people the false impression that they're only going to limit it to 16 teams and not have something leading up to that. I don't really see. I've been trying to find it. I don't really see anything.
Well, Woj and Shams have been pretty guarded about information coming out with this kind of stuff. They haven't really reported a lot. But yeah, it's a lot of the secondary guys. But the thing, I mean, people have already been posting that picture with the seedings, and then like this is what the playoffs would be like, and everyone's talking about it. So yeah, it's not just like one person; it's like tons of people.
Yeah, but these guys, would we trust them with trade rumors? You know what I mean? Like,
no, yeah, and I mean, nothing's set in stone yet. Like, the NBA doesn't even know what they're doing yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got, I don't know, like, I feel like this whole thing is not as likely as people are acting like it to be. Like, it definitely could happen, but I don't know. Like, the tone I'm getting from social media is, oh, it's likely the NBA just goes with 16 teams, and oh, they should just go with 16 teams, so this is good, like, type of stuff. But the tone doesn't really match up with the sourcing of it, you know, if that makes sense. Like, the sourcing of it isn't strong, and I'm looking at Woj's Twitter right now. The latest thing he tweeted was 1 hour ago saying the NBA Players Association's Michelle Roberts is conducting team-by-team conference calls with players detailing talks with NBA on formats for resumption of play in Orlando, financial implications of those options, and gathering feedback, sources tell ESPN. So it still sounds like the Michelle Roberts, who I think is somebody who works for the NBA Players Association, it sounds like they're still in the feedback stage, and okay, players, what do you think about this? What do you think about these different formats? So it sounds like they're still weighing multiple different formats. I don't think it's somewhere like anything is like running away is the number one option right now.
Yeah, but I think they're purposely floating out like whatever the front runner is to try and get feedback. I mean, lots of businesses and places do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know who's floating it out, you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's not Woj and Shams. They're not going to go to those guys and risk their reputation on this kind of stuff. So, and Woj and Shams aren't going to report that kind of thing. So they're going to all the secondary people.
It's starting to sound like a conspiracy theory.
It's not a conspiracy theory. Nothing's set in stone. I know. I said that first. I said that it's not set in stone, so they're still throwing stuff out there.
No, but I know. I'm more apt to believe they're still trying to figure out what they want to do instead of like, oh, they think they're gonna do this, so they're floating it to Joe Random at Barstool Sports, and he's tweeting it out to see what the public thinks, says a service for the NBA or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just more apt to believe that they're still weighing multiple opportunities. Maybe that's wishful thinking. I'm not entirely sure. It's just everything that they've said leading up to this point has been not 16 teams. And a couple like kind of weak sources tweeting out it's possibly only going to be 16 teams. I feel like that doesn't make that the leading scenario when everything they've tweeted up, everything that has been leaked up to this point for the past 3-4 weeks has been more than 16 teams and looking to play 70 games and stuff different than what's been reported today.
Yeah, and I mean I told you why it's changing, but
no, I get that. I'm just saying what I think. I'm just saying why I think that. If it was Woj coming out and saying it, then I would have a different tune on it. I just don't trust what's been put out there, if that makes sense. Some people might trust it, and they might be right for trusting it. I might be wrong for not trusting it. I just don't trust it.
Well, I don't trust Windhorst at all, and he's the only one who said anything about...
I mean, but has anybody more trustworthy than him leaked anything about 16? So but it's kind of Windhorst versus who? I haven't even gotten a name.
I would trust a rumor from you making up a rumor than over Windhorst. He doesn't know anything.
Come on.
I mean, according
man.
to Windhorst, Marcus Morris trade was official on trade deadline day to the Lakers.
I don't trust Windhorst either, but I don't trust the other guys either. You know what I mean? So like who I haven't even gotten one name as a source for like, okay, the NBA is only looking at doing 16 teams. I haven't even gotten one name as a source for that. At least we have a name, even though it's Windhorst being the name. At least have a name otherwise. Like I haven't even gotten a name.
So it's just being made up that the NBA might go to just 16.
No, like, I'm curious as to like who has reported that because I haven't gotten a name.
I don't have a single name because it's literally hundreds of people. Like every media place other than Windhorst is talking about this. Like every single thing you go to. is talking about the 16 team seeding. So I don't know. Like, I'm not just focused on like one person. It wasn't Woj and Shams. Like I said, they're not.
Yeah,
They haven't been spitting out these like crazy rumors or anything this whole time. They more deal with facts that they know are 100% true. So their reputation as always being right doesn't take a hit.
Yeah, I get that. If it's everybody, then I don't know. I'm having such a hard time finding it because I'm literally like searching and I see like fans talking about it, but I can't find like a media source on it. So I mean, maybe I'm not searching in the right way, but I can't find anything. Maybe I should Google it instead of search on Twitter though. I'm gonna Google it.
I mean, my whole Twitter feed, that was all it was this morning.
Yeah,
I don't know. And then they were talking about it on ESPN, and yeah.
Yeah, I've just been looking on Twitter, so I figured something would pop up. That's why I'm kind of like, I don't know how, I don't really know how I feel about that. Like, I don't know how set in stone that is. I'm searching on Google right now, and because everything I see is good chance NBA opts for 16-team playoff format upon return per report. Okay, here we go. I finally think I searched for it in the right way. But this source quotes, the source on this article is Brian Windhorst. The source on this next article is Brian Windhorst. I'm seeing Brian Windhorst is the main source, so if you trust me more than him, you should be agreeing with me.
I mean, you're just rolling out of bed and trying to search for stuff when I've been reading about it all day.
No, I know. I was just asking for a source. Yeah. I'm trying to find.
And I don't know what it wasn't Woj, but Woj was on one of the shows this morning. I don't know if it was Get Up or one of those type of shows, but there's like a 2-minute video or something of him giving an update, but it was mostly just talking about how the Disney World option and stuff like that.
I'm not even trying to argue with you right now. I'm literally just trying to find like sourcing on it, to try and see what you're talking about. I'm literally just trying to find the source on it. It's not even from an argument standpoint with that. I'm just trying to find like, okay, who's reporting this? That's all I'm trying to do right now. But I don't know. I mean, like, we'll have to wait and see. I feel like more will come out tomorrow, and more will definitely come out over the next 3 days. So maybe that's a good conversation to leave right here and then pick back up Friday, because we should have more information. Whereas right now it just seems like there's a bunch of smoke, but nobody really knows where I don't know, like I'm trying to search for the fire through all this smoke, and I'm struggling to find the fire, and the only fire I see is Brian Windhorst on fire. So I don't know. So we'll wait, and we'll revisit it Friday. Maybe you can say, I told you it's only going to be 16 teams, and I can be miserable or something, and maybe.
Like I said, nothing's set in stone yet. This is just what the latest they were talking about is. They were leaning towards going to straight to the playoffs and reseeding them 1 through 16.
I know. I mean, we'll see what happens over the next 3 days or so. So, chat, you have any comments, any questions? We haven't really talked to you guys today, so let's check in with chat. Let's see what you guys.
Destrom's trying to do something on 2K to get a 5x5 game.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know if he's playing my player or what, but yeah. A 50-point quadruple double.
Yeah, good luck with that one. You must be playing on Ricky.
I have a mock-off season trade to announce.
Oh, did that one actually get pushed through?
Yep, it's official. And I have permission from the person who is making a terrible trade to roast him because he doesn't mind and he thinks it's funny.
Okay. Well, I might have to do a little bit of roasting too then. So now announce it. Let's hear
All
it.
right. So the Orlando Magic are trading Evan Fournier and Taj Gibson to the New Orleans Pelicans for Steven Adams, Jay Scrubb, and a 2021 first that's protected 1 through 8. If not conveyed, it turns into a couple of future second rounders.
Yeah. I feel better about that pick because it was rumored to possibly be unprotected, which would have been a mistake of all mistakes. I know the Pelicans GM is confident with this team making the playoffs, but the West is very, very tough, and we don't know if Zion can stay healthy for more than 20 games. So one Zion injury, and you could be looking at the lottery. You could be looking at a potential top 5 pick there in New Orleans. And to give up the chance at a potential top 5 pick where the top 5 players probably would have been the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft, the top 5 players in next year's draft are all very, very good franchise-changing prospects. To give up a chance at one of those guys in order to get Evan Fournier would have been a huge mistake. But beyond that, he needed shooting from what I hear, but he traded away JJ Redick in the first place, and I don't know. Like, the way the moves line up don't make sense.
I would rather have J.J. Redick than Evan Fournier if I was a contending team, right? And I needed shooting like that. I think Redick's a way better fit next to guys like Ingram and Lonzo Ball and Zion and stuff like that. So I don't know if necessarily Redick is better overall than Fournier, but they're pretty close in terms of overall value, I'd say. Would you disagree with that?
Yeah, I think Fournier is a little bit better because I don't think Fournier is as bad of a defender, and he can take guys off the dribble a little bit more than Redick, and he passes a little bit better. He's a little bit more of a playmaker for others than Redick, but Redick is a more pure three-point shooter. But Fournier shot 40% last year from the three-point line, so he's no slouch in that area. So I do think Evan Fournier is better. He can play. He is 6'7", so he has more size of the small forward position, a little bit more positional versatility, where Redick is more of just a straight-up shooting guard. But it's not a huge gap.
Yeah, but he basically traded Redick, Jackson Hayes, the number 13 pick, and now another first-round pick for Fournier and Taj Gibson.
Yeah, I mean that's
terrible.
That's an L.
Yeah.
And
he kind of went the opposite extreme because we were making fun of him a little bit for signing Willie Cauley-Stein after he already had who do you have? JaVale McGee and Steven Adams. And we made fun of the Steven Adams trade originally. But now his only centers are Willie Cauley-Stein and the rookie Arturo from Minnesota. So he kind of went the opposite direction. And his point guard situation, he's got Lonzo Ball and Dellavedova. So I didn't really think he needed a wing. I thought he needed a point guard upgrade or a center upgrade. And instead, he traded for a fourth wing when you already have Brandon Ingram, Andre Iguodala, and
Joe
Ingles. Yeah. So how much is Fournier even going to play with that group? You know?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably play Ingles at some small ball four. I don't know. Like that roster construction doesn't make sense. Like Steven Adams and Evan Fournier are pretty even. I think he needed Steven Adams more than he needs Evan Fournier. So if there wasn't a pick included, I'd be kind of like, on the trade. Like, he gets Fournier and Gibson for Steven Adams in, like, the 60th pick in the draft. Like, that would have been a decent trade, in my opinion. But tossing in that first, it's rough. It's probably not the best trade. I wouldn't say it's necessarily, like, terrible, but that trade before that, the Steven Adams one with the 13th pick, was a very bad trade, especially if you're going to give up Steven Adams and a pick for Evan Fournier when you give up the 13th overall pick in Jackson Hayes, which was the 8th pick from the previous draft for Steven Adams in the first place. So obviously he valued Steven Adams very highly then. He gave up Jackson Hayes in the 13th pick for Steven Adams, and then he just throws him in with a pick for Fournier. So it just doesn't make sense.
And that's the kind of moves we were talking about at the beginning, to like, don't make moves that don't make sense. Like if you truly went after Steven Adams and valued him, then don't give him away with a pick to get someone else later, because you gave up the farm to get him, so you're kind of stuck with if you trade him in a trade like this where you have to include a pick to get rid of him, you're kind of proving that you made bad decisions earlier.
Yeah, I think he realizes that trade was
yeah,
bad at this point.
the thing you said about Ingles playing small ball forward, though, he has Larry Nance Jr. and Zion too. So like, he doesn't have a lot of minutes at the four either to play players.
I mean,
I know
assume Zion's
either of
gonna
those can play small ball center, but yeah,
which
I
is
just
why I
don't
was
like
against the Steven Adams trade in the first place. Was like Steven Adams probably deserves more minutes than Jackson Hayes at this point in their career, and he was kind of loading up on centers. It's like you probably want to play some Zion as some small ball five. Like it doesn't make sense to load up on centers when you got Zion there. So now he's kind of going the other way. He's just not getting the value that he gave up for these guys. You know, he's not getting the value back for Steven Adams that he gave up for him. So he's kind of just getting, 50, 75 cents on the dollar here for some of his assets. He has made good trades, so overall, like, his offseason isn't terrible. I don't even know if it's necessarily bad because I do like that Ingles trade, and he made a couple other decent moves to kind of offset this, but the Steven Adams trade and then this Fournier trade, if you match those two up, it just does not look good.
Yeah, I agree.
But people got excited. I get that. People got excited at the very start. So the fact that you can admit that is, that it wasn't a good trade is better than half the league could do, because
I do appreciate Jordan for saying that. Like, go ahead and roast me. I know I made a bad trader. Like, see, that's what we were trying to have this all be about. Like, we should be able to roast you and still recognize that you're still a good person, and like, it's nothing personal.
I don't even think we're not even roasting him. We're just analyzing the move. But the thing is, like, part of the reason why I want to put some analysis on some of these moves is so people could potentially learn based on what they've done, and it could translate into them like thinking of trade ideas for real life. You know, it could help them get a better understanding for like what sort of trades are possible in the NBA, what good value is, that type of thing. Through experience, through us giving them feedback on what they've done, I figured it would be a good thing for like the trade deadline next year when people are trying to come up with trade ideas and talk trade ideas and that type of stuff. So it was like a whole long run thing with that, where I was hoping that it would, help us out, where I'm not getting just insanely crappy trade suggestions at the deadline next year and people think they're like on to something and that type of stuff.
But yeah, I do. I like Jordan a lot. He's a good guy. But yeah, I appreciate you seeing it for what it is and just knowing that this is a game and you're learning about it, and that's good. That you're willing to make a mistake or admit that you made a mistake early on in the game and that you learned from it, and that's, like you said, is the whole point. And that's the kind of thing that makes it a lot better for this game than, how dare you make fun of my trade? Like, don't do that. Like, I'm so mad, like that kind of attitude is, I mean, it's okay if you feel that like we're being rude to you or mean, but like, that's never our intention. Like, this is Jordan's taken it the perfect way.
Yep. 100%. So, as far as like the sim goes, I want to like get that started June 1st. I just don't know if that's going to be possible, since I've been trying to like set up DoorDash and stuff the past 2-3 days, trying to get insurance on my car, which has been this whole process and gives me a headache. But I should be able to start driving for DoorDash tomorrow and like start working. The thing is, I'm actually going to be working, like, working a job basically. So as far as the same amount of time, as far as, me trying to keep up with my channel and that type of stuff, I'm still hoping that I can, because like once I get it underway, it should be fine. It's just the whole setup of the 2K thing that's what's going to be tough. And with everything I got going on, it might, I don't know, I'm going to try and get it done by June 1st, but it might be a little bit later than that. I'm also like pre-recording a couple, a few different videos and that type of stuff. So I've been working on that. I have recorded the Aldridge video again, which I kind of put off because it sucks to re-record something that's 30 minutes. right after you do it. It's kind of tough. So I have that recorded. We'll probably get that out tonight. It might be a late night upload, but actually have re-recorded now. I've been getting like migraines and stuff, so I've been chilling a little bit too. Just not really felt the best lately, but I'm feeling okay right now. So hopefully it's not something that's gonna keep lasting me, because the past couple nights, man, you get those migraines where it's like sharp pain in your head. It's not like your whole head; it'll just be like one random area where you just have a sharp pain for no reason. Do you ever get that?
Yeah, I get my migraines all the time. Yeah,
I hate those. So. Yeah, that's what I've been dealing with. Hopefully it's not, anything too serious, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll keep you guys up to date as always with the Discord and all that type of stuff. I'm actually busy, whereas like when we started this, I had so much damn free time.
Aren't you pretty close to being ready though? Like, how much more stuff do you have to do?
I have a decent outline of what I want to do. The thing is, like, I'd have to put some like player specific stuff in, so I need to just start working on putting that in. If it's cool with your permission, Eric, I could create a second sheet on the team sheets, and set that up in a way that works with the sim, and we could go off that. I gotta like make up my mind on a couple things that I still don't know exactly what I want to do, so I'm somebody that takes a while to make up their mind too. Yeah. So it's kind of tough.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just want it to be as good as possible for everybody. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, oh, well, why do I do just certain things?
It's just, that's what sucks about you being busy now, is like, this could have maybe been to the point where we were ready to go now, but
I mean,
life gets in the way.
Yeah, I mean, I've been busy the last like week trying to sort multiple different things out. It's not just trying to drive for DoorDash or anything. It's like taxes and a bunch of other stuff, financial stuff. So, hopefully, still gonna try to get it by June 1st. It's just like part of it is also I've been grinding more on videos and that type of stuff, and so it's, I don't know, if I wasn't, because that's the thing, when we started this, I was just in the rut video making wise, and I wasn't putting anything out, so I had like more time to kind of mess around with this type of stuff, and more energy too. Now I'm trying to find that balance. Once I get it all set up, it should be easy. Like throughout the season, it shouldn't be tough. I just need to set up the get it organized and get it set up. When is Aldridge video coming out? Literally just said possibly a late night upload tonight. You've been in here, Scalabrini, and you ain't listening, man. Possibly a late night upload tonight. I have re-recorded it, so I wanted to get it out a while ago, but at least this is only the case with this video and not every other video that I want to put out. So. Yeah. Lately, so at least get Summer League started by June 1st. I could do that, because the other thing is I gotta set up the new roster, and remake all the moves and all that, because there's a really good sim roster, but Yeah, I just plugged it back in.
Okay.
I was fast with it. Yeah, so I don't know. You guys can ask me in Discord. I'll be on Discord tonight. I can answer your questions in there. I haven't been super active on Discord lately, but should be active on there tonight. So segue in here, unless you have anything else you want to add, Eric.
No, you can go ahead, do your pulse thing.
Yeah, so I want to do a Blazers Pulse episode in the next week. So if you guys have any poll questions you guys think I should ask, let me know. I'll maybe take some of your guys' like poll questions, but a couple that I had was basically like, what format do you think the NBA should return with? Like, should they go straight to the playoffs, play 70 games, play 76 games, play 82 games? And then another one was like, I'll probably put one, should the NBA seed teams 1 through 16 without regard for conference, yes or no? Just kind of like based around the return of the NBA is kind of how the questions are going to be themed. Maybe like if the NBA does some sort of play-in or round robin for extra teams, what should they do? I don't know. I'll obviously think more about them, but that's kind of like the ideas I have. So if you guys have any kind of based off the return of the NBA or any to go off that, then I can maybe include those, because usually I like to have 5 questions or so. So right now I kind of got 3. Eric, if you have any, definitely suggest some.
Yeah, we pretty much covered it until we know a little more.
Yeah. I'll probably try and get the video out on Thursday before Friday. Hopefully the NBA doesn't completely decide a plan before that.
Yeah, Jordan Hutchins asking, if we re-sign Whiteside, would you try to get him as part of the bench, or would you look to trade? If we sign him, he'd be a part of our bench. We wouldn't be able to trade him until December 15th. So
just like you guys can't trade free agents you just signed, that's like a real life NBA rule. You can't trade them until December 15th. But I'd be fine with, I don't know, like at this point I'm fine with him as part of the bench, I guess. Like it could definitely go downhill if he's not playing enough and if he's not able to be the stretch forward that he wants to be.
Well, you get him, you re-sign him, because if he is fine and it works out with him being a part of the bench, which I'm fully convinced it won't, but then you have a great bench piece, which something we haven't really had in a long time, and then you also have injury protection against both Collins and Nurk getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But
he'd be a top 2 backup center, man.
Really, you just keep him. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You just keep him so you have a tradable asset. Otherwise, if you let him go in free agency and you're just left with like Nurk, Dame, CJ, those kind of guys, and then all like the smaller contract guys, we have the same problem we had last year, where we don't really have anyone to trade at the deadline. So yeah, I hope we sign him just to have like a contract to trade if we want to trade him. And yeah, like who knows, a good team center goes down for the year with an ACL tear and we have Whiteside on a reasonable contract, then that might be something they'd be interested in. And
then you could start talking about 3-team trades where we give that team Whiteside and look to get something from somewhere else. We'd probably have to include Ariza, but it give us a lot more flexibility in terms of midseason trade options next year if we re-signed Whiteside. So we'd re-sign him to be a part of our bench with the idea that he'd also improve our options via trade. So it actually kind of addressed both. It was kind of an either-or question, but it actually kind of addressed both those things. But Whiteside would be a top 2 backup center. The only backup center better than Whiteside would be Montrezl Harrell. But the thing is, Montrezl Harrell is playing behind somebody he's better than. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit like of a sham in a way. Like he's better than Zubac. They just want him playing with the bench unit. That's just the way they want to structure things. Whiteside would be the best backup center that's playing behind somebody who's actually better than him in the entire NBA. Like, I don't even think anybody else is really all that close, except for maybe, like, if you think Brandon Clark is the center, but he's like the next guy, so, like, having that guy off our bench, 100%, like, try and bring him back. I mean, our bench, if you bring him back, you're looking at Gary Trent Jr. Rodney Hood should be healthy by the start of the season, assuming it starts at Christmas, and Rodney Hood's recovery looks good. Like, Hood, that's more than a year after his Achilles injury. Hood should be back. You're looking at a bench without even using the trade exception, the mid-level exception, the biannual exception. You're looking at a bench of Gary Trent Jr., Rodney Hood, and Hassan Whiteside to start off this offseason with if you bring back Whiteside. That's already a really solid bench, I think. And then you have like almost $10 million to spend on top of that, and a trade exception if you want to use it. Like, we could have a really good bench next season.
So cleaning the glass, you probably missed this earlier. They had this stat. So 23 players this season that have played at least 1,000 minutes have an on-off differential of 90 percentile or better. So that means, like, you know, like if you're a star player and you're in the game and then you go to the bench, your team sucks, basically.
Yeah.
There's 23 players that did it this year. Only seven did it both this year and last year. Those seven are Giannis, LeBron, Jason Tatum, Paul Millsap, Bertans, Patty Mills, which is random, and Damian Lillard. And then only 3 players have done it in each of the last 3 seasons, and those are Giannis, Lillard, and Tatum. Mm-hmm. Another reason why I love Tatum, but anyways. Yes. And only 1 player has done it each of the last 4 seasons, and that is Damian Lillard. So he's the only player in the NBA who's like meant that much to his team, that he's that good when he's on the court and that team is that bad when they're off the court. So when you're talking about that, it kind of signifies that our bench has been weak, which does make sense considering when all those guys left in 2015, you know, you first, when you're rebuilding or retooling or whatever you want to call it, you have to kind of build your starting lineup first before you can focus on a bench. But this is the first summer where we could clearly, I guess we had a good bench last year for at least after the Hood trade and the Canner signing. But then we had injuries, like CJ went down for a few weeks towards the end of the season, and then so then Hood had to start, or Curry had to start, and it kind of ruins the bench a little bit. But we didn't have it for the full season. But this is the first offseason where if we just like re-sign our guys and, like you said, make smart additions with the other exceptions we have, we could actually have like one of the better benches in the league and have Damian playing at an MVP level in his prime. And I'd love to see that play out in that scenario. But if we let Whiteside leave for nothing,
that's a spot we have to replace and we lose an asset.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then we don't have that asset to trade next year to improve the team. So like it's just a big. Once we kept him through the trade deadline, that's why we always wanted someone to improve the team next year by trading him. But now that we kept him, we pretty much have to re-sign him.
Yeah. I believe. Yeah. 100%. I mean, like, I've just been messing around looking at, like, different, like, off-season scenarios, different off-season plans, and it's, like, there's one I came up with, which might be kind of far-fetched, but the value, I think, is decent. I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but it actually it actually involves a guy we just talked about. We could get probably the best bench in the NBA without using the mid-level exception. Starting off with, I mean, like, you're not a huge fan of this trade, but starting off with trading our first-round pick for Bjelica, our first-round pick this year, 14th or whatever it is, for Bjelica, using the trade exception to absorb Bjelica. But then the follow-up to that would be if Evan Fournier opts into his contract, trading Trevor Ariza into future first and maybe a future second for Evan Fournier. And then at that point, maybe if you want your bench to be that good, like in terms of skill set, I think the best fit in the starting lineup might be Gary Trent Jr. at the 3, but he's a little undersized. But if you're starting Collins and Nurkic in the front court, maybe you could get away with that. I think Trent plays bigger than he's listed. So Dame, CJ, Trent for like 18 minutes a game in a Vonleh type role, Collins and Nurkic, and then off the bench you have Rodney Hood, Evan Fournier, Bjelica, and Whiteside.
Wait, so who did you say we're trading Ariza and who?
Ariza, a first and a second. Since we could get back $5 million if we're not in the tax. Ariza makes 12.8. Evan Fournier, if he opts in, makes 17 million. So Ariza could match Fournier. That's with the idea that we're not using our mid-level exception or biannual exception. So I didn't fully do the math, but the should be under the tax, assuming we don't sign Whiteside to some like 15 million or something crazy. So it's only 2 moves, and an expiring contract, a first and a second for Fournier, I think is solid value. And then, that 14th pick for Bielitsa is solid value. You could maybe say we're giving up too much, but if you got a roster like that roster would be insane. You would have, if you decide to start Trent, which a lot of people probably wouldn't, I don't even know how I feel about that, but if you had a bench of like Rodney Hood, Evan Fournier, Bielitsa, and Whiteside, you'd have what? Fournier shot 40% from 3 last year. Bielitsa shot 42% from 3 last year. Rodney Hood shot, it was a smaller sample size, but he shot like 48% from 3 last year, and then Whiteside, and then you have CJ running with those guys. Like, that lineup should be really, really good. Like, defensively, it's questionable, but offensively, that bench lineup should be able to just outscore people. And you still got, Whiteside as the center. Like, I don't know. That's just an idea.
I don't like that at all.
You don't like that?
I'd rather have Ariza than Fournier. And we're giving up a first. So we're basically
I like Fournier more than you.
2 of our 3 first.
I like Fournier.
Fournier's
a bigger
okay,
contract to trade.
But when you have, unless we're trading CJ, I don't think it's good to have a scoring wing who's not a good defender. Like, I think we need a defensive small forward like Ariza is more important to the Blazers than a scoring guy like Fournier would be.
I think Ariza has gotten overrated by Blazer fans, to be honest. The more I think about it.
I'm not even overrating him. I'm just saying, I'd rather have the defensive aspects that he brings over
100%.
Like those type of players.
I'm not saying you're overrating him. Just kind of a thought. Like, shooting-wise, for his career, he's a 35% three-point shooter. Like, leading up until his time with Portland, he was a 35% shooter in Sacramento. The season before this one, he was a 33.4% three-point shooter. The season before, he was a 36.8% shooter. The season before that, he was a 34.4% shooter. So Ariza is not... He's an average three-point shooter. In Portland, he shot 40% from 3. I think Blazer fans think Ariza is a better shooter than he actually is. And with his age getting up there, like the idea of Ariza just the 3-and-D small forward, I do agree that's kind of what we need. But I'm kind of hesitant at the idea of Ariza being the answer there. So if we could get a guy who could potentially be the 6th man of the year, and then maybe you slot in Trent and see how he's able to go up against other small forwards or something, then maybe you do that. Or maybe you have a little bit of money left over to use the mid-level exception on a guy like Harkless or something to slot in at that starting 3. I'm just not hesitant to move on from Ariza. Because I don't think he can sustain the play he gave us last year or this season.
Yeah, see, I'd rather keep Ariza, move him to the bench and then sign Harkless. Or you could switch those two, whatever. But I'd rather do that than trade Ariza for Fournier, especially if we have to give up a first.
I like Fournier more than you do. Like that lineup would definitely be, in my opinion, a top 3 offense in the NBA. Maybe the best offense in the NBA if you had that roster. The defense would definitely be questionable, but
see, I think that's way overloading scoring and ignoring the horrible defense.
It's not just like scoring. You have insane floor spacing for Dame or for CJ. If you have guys like Gary Trent Jr., Rodney Hood, Bielitsa, Fournier, hopefully Collins can develop.
Yeah,
I don't know. I get your reservations with that lineup. I wouldn't go that route unless it was.
You keep saying I'm under your. I don't like Fournier, whatever. Fournier is a good fit on a lot of teams. I just don't like him on a team with Dame and CJ. I think we need a wing that is good at both defense first, and his average 3-point shooter is better than good 3-point shooter and average at defense.
No, I 1000% understand that. I wasn't meaning to say you don't like Fournier at all. I think I like him a little bit more than you do. I don't think he's a below average defender, but I don't think he's terrible, if that makes sense. I wouldn't want him starting. That's why the idea would be you're going out and to get him to play off the bench. The only hole there would be, I don't know. I think his defensive shortcomings wouldn't be as much of an issue off the bench compared to like if he's a starter. Same with a guy like Bielitsa.
But I think that you're giving up so much for someone who's, when you already have CJ and Hood and all those guys, like who knows how much you'd even get to play. It's kind of like,
oh, I've sorted it out how I'd structure the rotate. Like you'd play Trent like 18 minutes a game, so he'd kind of be a token starter, so you'd have more minutes available for that bench lineup. You just hope that, I don't know. See, if we had a defensive-minded head coach, I'd be more excited for that possibility, thinking like, okay, yeah, you get some guys in here that struggle defensively, but they should be so good offensively that you just hope that a defensive-minded coach could do what he does best and help those guys enough on the defensive end where they're a good enough defense to be able to like truly contend. The problem is we have Terry Stotts, and that's definitely not his MO. But I don't know, like that.
See, I think if you had that lineup, you'd have to trade CJ at that point. I just don't. I think that's too many scorers who also aren't necessarily spot up shooters. They like to have the ball in their hands too, and I just think that would be a little bit of a cluster.
The fit, yeah, the way it all fit together is definitely a debate, but looking beyond that, look at how much talent that would be without us using our mid-level exception. Like, yeah, we do trade our first-round pick this year, but I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the players around there, and we do trade our first-round pick next. We trade our 2021 first-round pick, but if we amassed... my voice is quitting on me. If we amassed a bunch of talent, that first-round pick next year should be in the 20s somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you're giving up 2 picks, but look at how we can... Look at the talent that we can amass there, if that makes sense. Like, you can't, I don't know, like the fit is questionable, but that's definitely like a very talented team in terms of just like individual players.
Yeah. See, I'm only giving up 2 first if it's not a questionable fit, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, that 100% makes sense. It's just more of like, we have tools at our dispensal to really to put together a really good team next year. I think we have the ability to put together the best team that Dame has ever had, including his teams he had with Aldridge and teams he had post Aldridge. Like you bring back Whites. I mean, this conversation all started with, do you bring back Whiteside to come off the bench? You 100% do that because that's a really good piece to have off the bench. And then you got Hood off the bench. That's another really good piece to have off the bench. And you have, even if you keep Ariza, you still have, Ariza is a solid fit as a starting small forward. You have your starting lineup with Ariza and Collins and Nurkic in them. You have 2 really good pieces off the bench to start with. So if you can add 2 more really good pieces off the bench, then we could have a really, really good bench lineup, a better bench than we've had in probably over a decade. And the thing is, we have the tools at our dispensal to make that happen. We have the trade exception, we have the mid-level exception. You could maybe, do something else. Like, we have the ability to put together a really good bench lineup next year, in my opinion. So
the thing I do like about that is, in theory, that should allow Dame to rest a little more, CJ not to play so many minutes, maybe get them down to like 34 minutes a game instead of 36, 37.
And the thing is, if you end up with a couple guys getting injured, you're not in a situation like this here where we just get absolutely screwed over. You have capable replacements at all positions that are able to step up. The only thing you really wouldn't have would be a point guard, but like you'd slot Simons in for 12 minutes of the backup point. If like Dame gets hurt, you'd put CJ in at the starting 1 and slide Evan Fournier in at the starting 2, or Rodney Hood and at the starting 2, or Gary Trent in at the starting 2 and keep Fournier and Hood off the bench or something like that. Like, you'd be able to withstand injuries by having a really good bench. Whatever those bench pieces are, who knows? The problem is this year we didn't go into this season having that good of a bench. Hazonia was going to be a part of the rotation. Tolliver was kind of like the next man up. I'd rather have, four. I hope we have four really good NBA veteran players. And then, like, our next guys up in case people get hurt are like an Anthony Simons or a Nasir Little or, a veteran that's maybe better than Anthony Tolliver because that was horrible. I just think, I don't know. I think we can have a really good bench next year. I'm excited for this offseason, actually.
What do you think Olshey does, though? Because that would be basically admitting that Simons isn't ready. I don't know if he's willing to do that. He seems like the kind of stubborn GM who will try to force that again next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, God, he shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, you can still have confidence in him. He's still only 20 years old. You can still say, we're still really high on Simons. He has a ton of time to develop. We still think he's going to become a very good NBA player, but we're trying to contend this year. We're trying to really contend, and we had the options available to put together a really good bench lineup where Simons isn't one of the top 9 players on the roster. So he is going to go into next season probably not getting that many minutes, and probably not with a regular spot in the rotation, but we still think we can develop him well in practice, off the court, watch him film, and he gets to go up against Dame and CJ every day. So that's kind of the attitude he should have, and I think fans would be okay with that, and that wouldn't even be him admitting that he's wrong, but he is stubborn, so I don't know.
I kind of feel like he'd almost thrive as the point guard in that second unit, though. Because Fournier can handle the ball, Hood can create his own shots. Bjelica is kind of a poor man's point forward type. Like, he can handle the ball a little bit and make plays, kind of like Nurkic does from the high post. And then you have Whiteside, who's like a good, if he gets a good chemistry with him to throw lobs to or finishing inside, like, he could really improve his assist numbers. So I almost feel like he might be okay at that second unit, though. So who knows? But I do like the idea of, regardless of what happens, unless we get some insane value for these guys, like keeping Simons and Little as, even if they're third string, just to have some developmental guys that still have a chance of becoming good players eventually.
Yeah. I agree with that. Olshey, it's not going to be as active as last season in terms of how many new players we had, but I think it could be just as, like, impactful of, like, getting new acquisitions. Right. Like, I don't know. We really only have 2 spots in our rotation to fill, like, unless Whiteside leaves. But I think Whiteside will be back. I think he'll be back. Like I said, you got Dame, CJ, Ariza, Collins, Nurkic as your starters, and you got Trent, who is a rotation player at this point, Hood, and Whiteside. So really that's only 1 spot left to fill, because I do think a 9-man rotation is best. Or you can
bring Hood slowly.
Yeah, like, you already have a decent bench without using any of your assets at that point. You still have possibly a lottery pick. Who, if that pick ends up top 4, like, you know what I mean? You just have... I think Portland is in a decent situation going into the summer. I do wish they had another contract that was tradable to open up more options. I do think that is the main problem, because, like, if you want to go out and get a guy like Evan Fournier, you have to trade Trevor Ariza, so that's the one thing where we don't really have the assets at our disposal at the moment, in terms of, like, bringing in big salary via trade. But we could bring a guy like Bjelica with the trade exception, if we want. I think we could give Sacramento good value, or we could potentially look at other options with that trade exception. Maybe the Suns are willing to move off Mikal Bridges for the 14th pick or something, since they have Kelly Oubre and Bridges doesn't really fit there. Maybe they just kind of want to redo that. Maybe that's
I would love that.
Yeah, I would love that too. Maybe that's the type of guy who could become available. Like, the trade exception will be in play this summer. He might not use it, but I keep saying this summer, but the offseason is probably going to be in the fall. You guys get what I mean. The trade exception will come into play, and it will be an asset that he can use. And I think he'll be active in trying to use it. Whether he uses it or not, that remains to be seen. But you can use that and possibly still have the mid-level exception, depending on what you re-sign Whiteside for. Like, I don't know. We could definitely put something together here this offseason. I don't know. I think this offseason is like the kind of like the final test for me with Olshey. Like, he's been struggling in the class, but he has a chance to redeem himself on the final. You know what I mean? Like, this offseason is kind of just my final. Olshey, you better do something.
I'm going to be so disappointed. Like, the summer we came away, we had the mid-level exception and the biennial exception. We went after like Spencer Hawes and like a bunch of random crappy centers, and we ended up with Kaman and Steve Blake back. And that was a summer where we were going from like an upstart team to possibly a contending team, and that's the best we could do. That was like because I think that was the summer after the
Houston series.
I think it was the summer after the Houston series because we wouldn't have signed Steve Blake if we had Mo Williams back. But yeah, like that was the best we could come up with, and that like Kaman had been an all-star, but like he was nowhere near as good as he was early in his career. And Steve Blake is fine; he's like serviceable, but like he wasn't going to take us to the next step in that process. So I'm hoping we don't end up something like that where we come out of this offseason with another Tolliver type signing and that's like all we do.
I mean last offseason it was like, okay, only the taxpayer mid-level exception, and if you want to Canner, Curry, or Hood back, you have to use that taxpayer mid-level exception on them. So it was really like we didn't really have any assets to use last season in a way. Like, we didn't have a $7.2 million trade exception or whatever the Bazemore trade exception was, and then we had to use only a taxpayer mid-level exception just to bring Rodney Hood back. Now you got Rodney Hood in the fold. Even if he ends up becoming a free agent, we have his early bird rights, and we could re-sign him for up to $10 million without using the mid-level exception or cap space. So you're going into this offseason just in a lot stronger position, in my opinion. Yeah. The pick is better. Like
the two guys we don't have bird rights for, Melo and Swanigan, I wouldn't want to re-sign for more than really cheap anyway. So if we offer Melo like the full mid-level exception, I'm going to be kind of mad.
That'd be very frustrating. I don't want Carmelo Anthony back in the rotation. I'd be cool with him being like a veteran off the bench who can like step in if like somebody gets hurt, but Melo was not good last season. Melo has become so overrated by Blazer fans. It's the same Blazer fans that were hating on him. Like, Blazer fans were like, oh, he's so bad, like in Houston and OKC, like, look at how bad he's playing. I'm glad we never got him. And then we get him, and he basically plays the same way he did in Houston and OKC, and Blazer fans think he's, like, so much better all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so obviously biased the way some Blazer fans are towards Carmelo. It just kind of drives me crazy, since he literally, I mean, you can look at it statistically. He wasn't any better than he was in OKC and Houston. Yes, he had big games. Yes, he played decent defense for, like, 3 weeks when he came back, but like at the end of the season, horrible defender and just too inefficient, just far too inefficient. The only efficient shot he shot was the 3-point shot at 37%. Other than that, the thing is, he didn't even shoot that many. He shot way too many mid-range, didn't really get to the line. Like, I don't want Melo back next season. I don't know. I'd be fine with him on a minimum and like maybe being the 10th guy. But anything above that, I'm not a fan of. He's not going to be like our 6th man if we want to truly contend. But
it was kind of cool seeing him in a Blazer jersey.
Oh, it was. And that's why I feel like some fans are like so high on him, is because of how cool it is that Carmelo Anthony is on our team now.
I feel like those fans would have overrated him whether he played good or bad, though.
Yeah.
But I wish we could have seen Gasol. That always kind of sucks.
Yeah, that would have been entertaining for sure. Gasol and Carmelo, that's kind of crazy. I forget that Pau Gasol was even on our team last year. Kind of sucks that he didn't get the get the opportunity to play. God, I forget that was even like a part of our offseason last year.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. But going into this offseason, we have 8 rotation spots filled out, already. And our mid-level exception. And the trade exception. That's such a stronger position than we did last year. And, Nurkic is going to be healthy. And Hood should be healthy. We shouldn't have anybody, missing at the start next season. We're in such a stronger position. And part of the reason we're in a stronger position is because now I feel like you can rely on Gary Trent Jr. to be a productive player night in, night out. Because the thing with him was okay, he can shoot the ball, but what else does he provide? Well, dude's developed very, very well on the defensive end and has turned himself into a 3-and-D wing who can shoot 38-39% from 3 and provides you a lot of energy and hustle and good things on the defensive end. So, he's a good NBA role player now. If he develops even more, he could be, maybe a better option than a Rodney Hood. I wasn't high on Gary Trent Jr. until this year. Now it's just funny because my tone on him has completely changed. Done a 180 just because of he's not forcing shots like he was in summer league and the season prior. I had questions about him being able to fit into the offense and take the right shots and pass up the right shots playing next to guys like Damon CJ. He's proven that he's able to fit in like that, and then he's proven himself on the defensive end. So part of the reason we're in a stronger position is because Gary Trent Jr. is now a solid NBA player, whereas going into last offseason, you weren't even expecting him to be a part of the rotation, if that makes sense. So
yeah, I like Trent's development. I didn't like how much we gave up for him, but it looks like it's going to work out.
Yeah, I didn't either. Me and Eric were both down on that move. That's a move that I was wrong on at draft time. My concerns were definitely valid going into this past season, just because he has, just because he has ended up being a good defender and not being as much of a, that much of a shot chucker. That doesn't mean that the concerns about his defense and him chucking shots going into this season weren't valid. You know what I mean? It's not like I was proven wrong, because they were. I always said those are things he's going to have to improve on if he wants to be a good NBA player, and he's improved on those things. And now he's a good NBA player. So, if anything, nailed it on the head going into last season with this is what he has to improve, and then he did it. So, I just hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, stuff you said at the start of the season, he proved you wrong." It's he didn't prove me wrong. He showed exactly why I was right. That if he improved on those things, he would be a good NBA player, and he needs to improve on those things, and then he did. So there's your evidence. I don't know.
See, we need players because if I remember correctly, didn't he spend most of the last offseason in Portland, and him and several of the guys did that and worked together on their games and stuff?
Yeah.
That's the kind of guys Portland needs. Mm-hmm. People who are going to improve like that and have the drive to succeed on their own. Like he mentioned, watching hours and hours and hours of film to improve his defense. One thing from The Last Dance, you hear Rodman talking about why he was such a good rebounder. He actually went to the gym and had different people shooting the ball so he could study arc and the way the ball bounces off the rim and how different shots from different locations usually go off. So he would position himself based off all this knowledge he had from watching film and actually being in the gym doing it. You need players like that to improve their game on their own and be willing to do that, especially a team like Portland, and that's why a few years ago, I forgot who it was, if it was Olshey or Dame or someone said, there's a type of player they're looking for when they make free agent signings. You don't want a guy who is out partying all the time and not really caring about his game. He's more caring about the lifestyle that being in the NBA presents. So you want these basketball junkies who live in the gym and stuff. And it seems like Gary Trent has made himself into a good player just by sheer will, and that's good to see.
Yeah, and the thing is, work ethic is underrated in terms of the draft process. I mean, you look at a lot of the steals that end up happening. The reason why they end up steals is it's not because they were better at the time than people thought. It was because they had the work ethic to really improve from what they were. You look at a Kawhi Leonard being drafted 15th. Yeah. Jimmy Butler was literally the other guy I was thinking of too. So same wavelength right here. Jimmy Butler too. Chris Middleton's a hard worker. A lot of if you look at any any steal in the draft, almost always they're very hard workers. And Gary Trent Jr., you can tell, worked his ass off last season. And that's why he's starting to look at like a steal with that 37th overall pick, since he's already a good rotation player at the age of 20, 21. I forget how old he is. I think he's 21 right now. And he's already a piece that I could see being in the rotation of a contending team. And he was drafted 37th a couple years ago. So work ethic is something that when I really dive deeper into scouting this year's draft, that's definitely something I'm going to be trying to look for second-round prospects. The thing is, a lot of coaches can talk up these second-round prospects like, oh, yeah, this guy works hard. This guy's, it's kind of hard to tell how hard of workers guys are. But that's definitely something to keep in mind that I think goes overlooked by fans when they're trying to determine, okay, who are some potential sleepers in the draft.
Yeah, Trevin has a good point about Little. And just look at, you don't improve your shot the way it looks that much during a season unless you're working your butt off every day to try and make that shot better. So, that gives me hope with his work ethic, too, that he'll keep improving. And he knows that shooting was a weakness, and if he doesn't improve that, he's not going to see the court. And he obviously tried really hard to work on that during the season. Now, hopefully, during this off time, he's been continuing to work on that. Hopefully he's had access to a gym to keep that going. But yeah, you're going to see when the NBA comes back just who is a hard worker and is not content on where they're at. But it's also why someone like Andrew Wiggins is never going to be good. Is he just doesn't? He has all the tools in the world. That guy could be the best player in the NBA, but he just doesn't seem to care enough.
Yep. If he had Kawhi's work ethic, Wiggins would definitely, no question about it, be top 5. Because he has the tools to be a great defender, and he shows some flashes of playmaking and can score the ball, just not super efficiently. It's not like he's he's not a good player, but he's a guy that with how do I explain this? There are good players where they could slightly improve in a bunch of areas and they still wouldn't be good players. But there's also players that are just as bad as those guys, but if they did slightly improve in multiple areas, they would be decent or good NBA players. Andrew Wiggins is the type of guy who's based on what he produces, he doesn't really help your team, but if he just improved a bit on a few different things, he would be a really, really good NBA player, if that makes sense. Because it's he shows some flashes of playmaking and has the tools defensively from an athleticism standpoint and, has some scoring skill. He just doesn't score efficiently enough. If he was just more efficient, where he was decently efficient, expanded on his playmaking just a little bit and was a good defender, you'd be looking at a guy who's 23 points per game and 4 assists per game and plays good defense and is decently efficient. That would be a really good NBA player. You know what I mean?
An all NBA player.
Yeah, the thing is, he's not super far off that, but he is because he'll never get there. You know what I mean? His skill set, he's not super far off. He's super far off from that because of his work ethic, because he doesn't have that work ethic that's needed to actually unlock that level of potential. So I think he'll always be what he is. I don't think you can just bring him into a situation like Golden State and he's going to completely change his work ethic. People have made that argument. I don't agree with it. And that just goes to show you can have a super insanely talented player. He gets drafted number 1, but because he doesn't have the work ethic, he doesn't pan out and he's a bust of a number 1 pick.
Yeah, that's tough because I could see it being kind of a wake-up call that he got traded and now he's kind of man, no teams really want me. He kind of hears rumors that Golden State's trying to trade him again. But then if you get into practice with guys like Steph and Clay and Draymond, guys who obviously do work hard, like it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb if you're all lackadaisical and
Yeah,
stuff. So like he's either got to improve it or he's gonna uh like not really have a chance to get too far, like another big contract after this one.
yeah.
He still has several
Some
years.
guys don't know how to work hard. Some guys need a wake up call. For him, I think he's been in the league long enough that, like, if he was going to have a wake up call, he'd have had it right now. Sorry, I'm putting on my shoes. If he was gonna have a wake up call, he would have had it by now. I think it's just like he doesn't have the heart. He doesn't care enough. And honestly, like, I'm just hesitant to say like, oh, playing with a Draymond, practicing with a Draymond, that's gonna make him care more. You know what I mean? Like, some guys just don't know how to work hard and need that example. Some guys need an example, need somebody to lead the way, need a certain type of culture, in order for them to like know how to work hard. Some guys just don't know how to. Some guys just don't want it. And with Wiggins, just like he just doesn't want it, in my opinion. So I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that. He could be a very scary player, but I don't know. We're just definitely underrated in prospects. So a guy like Little, I'm excited about for that reason. I don't think necessarily like he deserves a spot in the rotation next year. I think we have to try and contend right now instead of, okay, hopefully this young guy can take the next step because we're going to give him minutes next year, so I'm not on the bandwagon of like Mr. Little has to be in the rotation next year. I do think like couple 2, 3, 4 years down the line that he could be a good NBA player if he just continues to work his ass off, because he's still very young and he definitely has the tools, man. He has a little bit of like ball skills, doesn't really show him off, but I think his handle is a little bit better than people realize. I mean, you look at guys don't just, okay, so that move he pulled out on Michael Porter Jr. in the preseason last year, guys don't just pull that move out if they've never like done that type of stuff before. You know what I mean? Like guys that are really raw and don't have any ball skills don't just pull out that like between the legs, wrap around behind the back and get to the hoop off of it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like maybe that's just one play and it's just, fluky or whatever, but like I've seen him kind of do stuff like that and it gives me confidence like, okay, this guy, if he develops that 3-point shot with his athleticism, like you either let him shoot the 3 or you run him off the line, but then he's going to attack you and he has the ball handling ability and athleticism to be able to attack well. And the thing is, he shows flashes of being a little bit crafty with finishes around the rim. So like in terms of like the package he has right now, in terms of the skill set he has to work off of right now, I think that Little really works his ass off. He can just be a complete all-around player.
Yeah. Definitely has some good defensive instincts as well.
Yeah. But man, that shot looked so much better. That was insane to see that low. Just it was like night and day improvement in the middle of the season. I've never really seen that before, man.
It was weird because he like barely played for like 20 games, and then all of a sudden, oh, here's Little off the bench after we have a few injuries.
Yeah, wasn't it the Lakers game and he just shoots a 3 and it didn't even look like him? Like one of his threes went after he came back. I don't know if it was like one of his first ones, but like I wasn't really paying attention to the game, but like he shot it and I didn't think it was him, but like based off the form, I was like, who the hell shot that? And I was like, oh, that was Little? And then I was just surprised. Like I was like, wait, what? Like I hadn't seen that form before. So I think it was the Lakers game.
He cut his hair halfway through the season too, so it was kind of
that was part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But God, it's just 9-day difference. Just the rhythm and just got rid of the hitch for the most part, and it gives me confidence, man. Still think he needs to get a little bit more arc on his shot, but that's something that he can definitely improve.
Yeah.
Same with Simons, he needs to get more arc on his shot, man. What's with these kids shooting the ball so flat?
I don't know.
I'm not one to talk. I have a little bit of a flat shot, but yeah. So
I had the opposite problem.
Too much arc.
Too much arc. I had to try to flatten it a little bit.
That's so weird to me.
It was hard to do. Yeah.
I feel like it's easier to get flat arc. You just throw your arm forward, like. Yeah. And don't extend, like, because that's the problem I have now. I just kind of throw my arm forward. But, yeah, I used to have good arc. I miss it. I miss having good arc. Got out and shot the other day, and it just felt so weird, man. Felt so weird. Like, I know why I'm not a good shooter. I've figured out my problem, and it's so hard to fix. I roll my fingers like to the outside, like towards my pinky finger on my shooting hand. Like I kind of, instead of like falling through like that, I kind of like roll them in a way. Like I kind of roll them like that, and I end up getting a little bit of side spin. I end up like pushing it left too much. Thing is, it's such like a mental block. I never used to have that issue, and I literally like cannot fix it. Like I literally will feel like I'm pushing my fingers through straight. I'm throwing my pointer finger forward through the ball, and still like can't. I don't know, man. I still like have that little bit of side spin and that little bit like I push it left too much. So if I could fix that, I think I'd be a good shooter. But that's my biggest issue right now. Because I don't know. It's because I tried to copy Steph's shot with like his hand on like kind of the side of the ball and then rotating it through, and it ended up just getting me used to like pushing it left, if that makes sense. So don't try and copy Steph Curry's form. That's all. That's my only advice for your shot.
I feel like if there was ever going to be a time to fix it, though, like going back now that you haven't shot that much in the last couple of months, like this would be the perfect time to try and fix it. But yeah,
I mean, like I have to try and fix it, because if I fix it, I'd be a much more consistent and a much better shooter.
Yeah,
I thought that this layoff would make it easier to fix. It hasn't, because I've gone back and shot a couple times in the past week, and it's still a problem, and it's still a mental block. So I think honestly the only thing that's going to fix it is having actually just a ton of reps. Problem is, Clark County ended up having an outbreak right when they were applying for like their next phase of reopening, so that got put on the back burner. I don't know if you heard about that, but yeah, so I'm not even able to like get in and work out, even though the gyms weren't going to be open. I wanted to get in and work out, and their application got pulled back because a food processing plant had like 40 infections.
I heard it was 63 or 65 out of 153 or something.
Of course, man. Like, God. Yeah. Hopefully they weren't going out in public, because I'm hoping that if they're able to like get them quarantined and make sure that it's not like affecting the public, that maybe they could still reopen to phase 2. But God, dude, like, just sucks, man.
Yeah, it's bad. Wonder how long they've had it and stuff, how much it spread.
Yeah.
Because it was like I think it was like a fruit plant type place.
It's on my side of town too. It's like only like a couple miles away. I don't know. Have you ever been to Hazeldale?
Yeah. Times.
Yeah, it's like and it's not really in Hazeldale. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's along Vancouver Lake, which is kind of by where I live. So it's actually pretty close. Hopefully they didn't go. It's pretty close to Hazeldale. Hopefully they didn't go to Hazeldale. I don't want to get infected or anything. But I don't know. I'm just hoping that the workers were smart and like, okay, I'm working in a place that has risk of spread of coronavirus. I shouldn't be going out in public and,
doubt it.
Going out to grocery stores. But yeah. God, I just wanted it to reopen. But hopefully Oregon's on their way. And I don't know. I need a haircut mostly, but would like to play some basketball or something, man. Just kind of getting antsy, which is good that I'm going to be able to start driving around for DoorDash and get out and around and stuff. But I'm so antsy right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, probably gonna wrap up this show. Here's that part of the outro where I think about what I need to plug, but then I don't feel like plugging anything, so I don't. Got a haircut yesterday. Congrats, Trevin. I've been waiting, man. Cause I got the shave on the sides in January, but like the top, like I left longer in January, so the top is just insane, dude. It's so crazy. So definitely hat 24/7. Sleep with it on. No, I don't, but that's the only time I take it off. Yeah, because I'm got that mop head right now. Eric don't have to worry about that. He has the opposite.
I only wear the hat when I'm on stream. I don't even care.
Because hiding that bald head, man, so it doesn't shine back into the camera.
Yep.
Oh, man. At this point, it'd honestly be nicer to be bald. I don't want to be, I'm still, 20, 23? I had to think about my age because my birthday's this upcoming week. But I don't want to be 24. But anyway, it would almost be nicer to just be bald right now, so I didn't, because like this stuff, I feel like I've been getting migraines lately because of like how heavy this is, and I'm not used to it having all that hair up there. So yeah, I don't know. Ben's back. I thought Ben was going to be checking out for a while, and then he's back right at the end of stream. What's up, Ben? I'm about to sign off those, bro, so good to see you, but I'll catch you later. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to wrap up this show. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. If you want to talk to me, hit me up on Discord. Do you have scissors to cut it? I'm not cutting it myself. I do have scissors I actually have scissors like right here. I would cut it myself for $1,000 donation, but anything less than that, hell no. I never want to do that. But yeah, Ben, you're just because I haven't given one of these out for a while, just for the peace out, go Wizards. 5-minute ban. Haven't been able to say that in a while. I just got excited. So anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.